Hello, Burlokk.
Hello, Grumsworth.
And hello, all you lovely people out there. Welcome to another episode of the Preambull, the every so often digest of all things hobby.
Our every so often digest, indeed. Yeah, what have you been up to, Grumsworth? What's been going on? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's been a productive week, hobby-wise at least. Lots of good things happening. I'm in fine spirits.
Very good.
So it's an ideal moment to do a bit of this sort of business.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. Happy to see you again.
So. I think I'm always overjoyed to see you. How have you been?
Been very well indeed. Yeah, not too bad. It's been somewhat productive for me as well. You know, ordinary life stuff again, getting in the way where it shouldn't. But
doesn't it just?
I very much enjoy our escape into the world of hobby, as we all do, to help manage.
Exactly. It's a what can we call it? A salve?
The hobby salve.
Hobby salve.
That's it. Smear it on.
I mean, yeah. Get it on extra thick as well. Factor 50
at least.
Salve.
Oh yeah, at least for sure.
I know where you could pick that up if such a product existed.
I don't think we're ready to jump back into Oldman's again, are we?
We don't need to go there just yet.
No, it's got an ill-favoured look about it.
It has very, very ill-favoured sign swinging in the breeze. We won't go there again because our listeners, beloved as you are, and I know you like our tales about Oldman's, but it's not all about Oldman's, is it? This podcast.
Well, I'd like it to be in my heart of hearts. Good old Oldman's, yeah. But
okay then. So this is, I think, going to be a continuing struggle, which I'm afraid, dear listeners, you're going to have to endure for some time while we sort of try and school ourselves as to not just rambling down the paths seldom trod.
Yeah. They're seldom trod, but very comforting.
Deeply comforting, yeah, and often trod by us as well, isn't it? That's the kind of thing about it.
If you find yourself wandering down those same alleyways and pathways, you'll find us there with a bottle of beer in hand.
Right.
But what have you been up to, hobby-wise? What's been your salve this week, Grumsworth?
The salve this week for myself. So I've been continuing to work on my Necromunda. My house Cawdor gang there. I recently received from Forge World a selection of interesting bits to, I think, as they suggest, add a bit more character to your guys, to your gangers, your leaders and your champions and Jews. The reason I wanted them, so I got the head upgrade pack, which I think has got 12. Is that right? 16.
I think there's
16,
a bigger,
individual heads, all cast in resin there. Beautiful expressions on them, much more expressive than the plastic versions that you get in the regular box there. The main reason I chose them was because I really like the kind of straightforward, simple, traditional Cawdor mask there, cut out around the beak, rest of the face obscured.
Yeah,
because I'm painting them. Classic, exactly, yeah. And actually, in this little set there's quite a lot of the classic look. But they will have, some of them have their hoods up there. There's some slight variation, some stitch work here and there, and this sort of thing.
Perhaps we'll show, get a little image up there. There we go.
Yeah.
They're looking quite good. Yeah, so you've added those on.
That's right, yeah. So the other half of the gang I've built over the course of the week. They're still in their grey plastic presently, but tomorrow they will be resplendent in their Gracia primer.
Very nice.
I find incredible. It's a lovely colour, goes on really well, really crisp and smooth. I've also added from the Cawdor Weapons Pack one.
Oh, yes.
The Heavy Flamer, which if we can get a little picture up of, is just, it looks horrific.
What a beast. Yeah, that's lovely. Look at that.
It is a beast, isn't it?
It's really nice.
Of like fat welded pipes, couple of old taps, some straps and stuff like this.
Yeah, I love the way they're sort of thrown together, welded together, patched together, just like the corridor.
Yeah, proper scavenged. I've kind of got like a little bit of a unique color scheme worked out for just that particular weapon in the gang. So the rest of the gang's all very brown, very drab colors. You've got your bright white masks on, lots of rusty stuff. But this flamer piece, I'm going to paint like it's been looted, deconstructed from industrial pieces. So there's going to be some chipped, damaged yellow paint on there. There's going to be a little bit of hazard banding, and also there's going to be some kind of red flammable type logos painted on some of their canister type work, right, most of which is on his back there. But yeah. So at the moment, these guys all just look, in their raw plastic and their resin, and it's not been a massively productive week, but these guys, initially, they were just all on sprues. Now they're all cleaned up, filled in some of the cracks with a bit of green stuff.
Yeah, it's a big milestone for me whenever I do anything like that. At least getting them off of the sprues into their components that are going to, however you're going to be painting them. I know some people like to paint by keeping pieces separate. But I guess with these corridor figures, they're easy enough to get to from all angles, so you can build them all. And once you've got something like that constructed and built, that's a big milestone. So no, that sounds like you've been pretty productive to me.
I like your enthusiasm, and I will add it to myself. How about yourself, Burlokk? What have you conjured up for us this week?
So over the past few days, I've been cracking on with some scenery.
Oh,
just I every now and again I'll get the urge to do some scenery. I've always enjoyed making scenery. Just getting your craft knife out, bits of cardboard, bits of old foam board kicking around. The glue gun comes out, all manner of bits and pieces that I've managed to scavenge up over the years. Those boxes and crates are opened up again. It's like, right, where do we start?
Here we go.
I've just thrown together some basic ruined buildings, and I've started work on a UFO style alien spaceship. Looks a bit Necron-like, actually.
Oh, really?
Smashed into the ground. So I've started texturing that all up, built the skeleton structure of it. I'll put some pictures up here, and
let's have a look.
It's looking all right. It's coming together slowly. It's about halfway to being completely textured, and then the painting will begin. But the thing with it for me is it's almost the opposite to miniatures. I have my miniatures which can come together quite quick construction wise, and then they take a while to be finished with their paintwork, as many of our listeners I'm sure can attest to, and empathize with. The time it takes to paint miniatures for me is longer than I would like, but it's the opposite with scenery. I do take my time and consider everything when I'm building scenery, but when it comes to actually painting it, I can knock it out real fast. Over the years, I've picked up a few techniques and things, different styles of colors that work well with each other with scenery, especially on a lot of urban terrain. So that once the construction is done, it's all textured up and looking nice, the paint will come together quite swiftly, I think. So I'm looking forward to getting that finished off.
That's a really good skill, actually, to be able to, once you've got the hardcore work of putting together your terrain or your scenery and things like this, just being able to blast it with good looking color, you bring it to life like with speed. That is a blessing.
A lot of it can be done with rattle cans, throw the airbrush in, for those little bits and pieces. But often it's a 1-inch brush. To be fair, just smash it out, get it on there, and it all comes together real quick. I managed to cobble together some homemade stencils to paint on some designs onto the edges of the buildings. And once it's all done and painted, I then like to add a few extra little details. Like with Necromunda, for example, you have your wanted posters on the scenery, and you have your little details in the corners almost out of sight, but when you get a closer look, you can see those interesting little details, which I like to put in as well. So I do. It's a nice break from the miniature painting and the D&D game writing, It's good to get my fingers filthy in the pit of scenery building. So yeah, I've been really enjoying doing that. So it's been a nice break.
You should try it yourselves, folks. Start by painting, or if your eyes become tired and sore and your fingers weak from painting your 15 mil tiny little Greeks or some little War Master guys, or even maybe just the face of a bedraggled Cawdor Juve, then just go and paint yourself a big old mountain or something.
It's almost therapeutic.
It's almost therapeutic.
In comparison.
You've heard it here, folks. You've heard it here. Salve and therapy. It's what we're bringing you.
Absolutely right. And talking about what we're going to be bringing, all of you lovely folk, what are we bringing today?
We're bringing you a character, an individual from the universe of Warhammer 40,000 there.
Okay.
He's an old favourite, I reckon, among many hearts, and an old enemy, though, for plenty more, maybe more. I'm with him, to be honest. I think he was a right treat.
Oh yeah,
good quality backstory. Comes from a really cool Traitor Legion. He's just recently got himself a nice, fresh new model.
Oh, we're getting warm now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, there's not many though. So we're going to be talking about Fabius Bile.
That's right. We are indeed, Grumsworth. Yeah, Fabulous Bile.
Fabulous B. I mean, we're going to be talking about the sort of the interesting differences between the original version, crafted for us in, or what are we thinking era-wise? Was it white metal or?
I think it was around the sort of the cusp of when he was. I think he rode that wave in. Yeah, he crashed into the shores of games workshops and hobby stores alike with the white metal wave. Nothing to do with the new metal wave, folks. I think it was about 1998, wasn't it, when he was originally released? Certainly between 97 and 98, I think.
I like that. Sounds right. Yeah, end of the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, sculpted by none other than the great
old Jess.
Old Jess Goodwin.
So, should we take a look at the original first off?
Let's.
And let's give a little bit of commentary on this still absolutely superb looking figure, I think.
It really is, yeah. So this is the original. At the time when he was released, I remember looking at him thinking, oh my God, I need to have that. Look at how big he is. He's a space marine and he's got a cloak on. And oh my God, that cloak's made of faces.
And then the kind of semi-sentient mechanical kind of harness.
That's right.
That he uses in combat and also in his surgeries, one would imagine. It's got some drilly bits on it.
Drilly bits, stabby bits, yeah, as all good chaos should have, spiky bits.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of vials of kind of fluid hooked up to him as well.
Yeah, I mean, the miniature, especially for its time, was quite marvelous. It was quite a step away from other styles of miniatures they'd released. The posing was good. The fact he's got his staff out to the front, as opposed to that sort of typical flat
hero pose,
outstretched pose, to either side. Again, looking at him here, and it takes me back to when I first saw him, almost as if it was yesterday. Oh God, look at him in the pages of White Dwarf and think, right, I'm going to enjoy killing him when all my mates buy him. But as you said, he's you're either with him or against him. I was definitely against him, but he was such an iconic figure from those days, and Jess done a great job sculpting him. What do you make of him?
He is a super impressive model. As you say, a big kind of departure, I think, in many ways, from a lot of the other, from their miniatures in general at the time. Despite the fact that he's a space marine, so he's got a little bit of chunk about him, and his big kind of skin cloth robe, and this big metal harness thing, which is kind of welded to his back, isn't it?
The chirurgeon, isn't it?
Chirurgeon, yeah. So that's locked into him. So he's got kind of like a lot of weight about his miniature. There's a lot to him, but he actually, the way he's been sculpted, there's quite a decent amount of movement in him for a miniature from that sort of time. That leading leg, as you say, the cane kind of stretched out forward as if he's kind of marching with it almost. Needler off to the side, kind of trad classic pose.
Of course, the Cyclops Needler, wasn't it?
The Cyclops Needler, yeah, horrible piece of war gear.
Yeah, I remember seeing him in the rules for him in the I think it was the second edition Chaos Codex, and he was a beast. Yeah, he was a beast. I believe he when he was released, I think he came out after this. He came out as a blister pack. I believe it was originally as a blister pack, and then he was released.
That sounds right.
Released as a box set, I think, not long after that, with his bunch of experimented on Space Marines. He's mutated and enhanced Astartes.
Now, I think those he's a superb miniature. I think those, on the other hand, his cohort, very sorry looking individuals.
Yeah.
In the worst possible way. They were not good, were they?
No, they. I believe they had the sort of the plastic, like plastic legs, arms and legs, and then they had the metal bits you added onto them, and those metal sculpts. I can't remember who they were done by, but yeah, they were great.
They were fine. They were functional, but
if you compare it,
yeah, the centerpiece that was Fabius there, he was leagues ahead, and very obviously so as well. But, so looking at him, looking at the detail on him, all that nice, neat stitch work that he's lovingly put on his long coat there, all those people stitched up together, that's really nice detail. The kind of the work on his shoulder pads, his face actually is really expressive. Especially for the time that we're looking at again, when Space Marine features tended to, even if they were chaos, there wasn't a massive amount of sort of emotion.
No, there were just a sort of square-jawed, bald head, service studs, and then it was kind of just a generic grimace. Sure. But whereas he's got almost like a look in his eyes, isn't he? He's concerned about something, or he's got something in his sights, and he's off.
The paint job on the original there, as it was released in White Dwarf magazine at the time, things like that, again, I think was really good. That very soft, quite like muted colour scheme, actually, isn't it? You know, the pale of his skin, the pale of his robe, even his Emperor's Children power armour, which you can only see a little, maybe his kind of leading leg.
So it's like, you can tell that it looks like a very old Baroque armour, so you can tell he's been around since the early days.
He's a veteran of the Long War.
He certainly is. It's almost as if his past is shrouded in a little bit of mystery.
Yeah, and it certainly would be.
But back then, he was a bit of an enigma. You know, who's this Fabius Bile guy? You know, because he was never mentioned in the much of the lore, and then all of a sudden he found his home, became well entrenched in the lore of the game, and he obviously appears quite regularly throughout the Horus Heresy novels, which we are both fans of.
Deeply so, yeah. And he has some very, very, very good value in it, doesn't he?
He certainly does, yeah. There's so much hyperbole you could throw at this old miniature from 1998. How long ago is this now? You know, it's over 20 years old, and now we've been blessed with a new miniature.
We have it's not, I was going to say a reimagining, but actually it is almost just like just a pure upgrade, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. There aren't many miniatures these days that I'm sort of, that's nice about. You know, I'm not sort of knocked off my feet thinking, oh, I need to have that. But this is one of those miniatures. This looks really nice. I know I know that Games Workshop don't credit many of their designers anymore.
It doesn't appear so, does it? I'm sure you can find it maybe if you dig for it.
We had a quick look. We couldn't find it. But I do know there's been a hoo-ha over the whole how to credit your artists from GW, etc. That's a tangent I don't really want to go down. But this guy, this new Fabius, I mean, this is just Jez Goodwin's legacy, isn't it? Really, it lives on in this fella here.
It really is. It really is. There's everything about him is an echo from the original.
Yeah.
The pose has been altered slightly, very slightly, really. It almost just does look like they have taken the DNA of that original miniature and they've put it through the new process that they use for creating models these days. All of the elements of the original are still locked in there. The skin robe is sort of kind of part of his iconic kind of look. He's still there, looking really sharp, looking really, really good, stretched over the armour there. And the same is true of the rest of his war gear.
Yeah, the chirurgeon there, it looks much more spider-like and spindly. Very. Talking of which, I think this is released as part of the War of the Spider. Is that right? A period of time that in the 40k lore, the War of the Spider's going on, and this is one of those releases for that.
It is one of those releases for that. We're to assume that old Fabulous B there plays a very major part in this, I would imagine.
I'd like to think so. His face tells me that he does, and which looks very similar to the original sculpt as well. You know, it's that I've got something in mind. But we haven't yet mentioned his little crony.
Yeah, so he's got a little gribbler with him, hasn't he? One of his assistants, maybe a failed experiment, even.
Yeah,
some such.
Got ports and stuff all over his arms, hasn't he? He's got like
he has
plugs and things. Maybe that's just something he's been experimenting on. He's got a big old, it looks like some kind of syringe shoved in his back. So
that's to get him up in the morning, though, isn't it? That's his little wake up syringe.
Of course, yeah.
But what we quite quickly picked out what he was up to down there. It's quite an iconic thing to connect lore-wise with Fabius Bile.
Yeah. I think it's the progenoid gland that he's extracting with some handheld device. He's sort of pulling that out of the Space Marine's neck.
I think he is rather, yeah.
The poor son of Gilliman.
Well, he maybe got what he deserved. Let's not go into Space Marine chapters.
Where our loyalties lie.
Where our loyalties lie. Because that very certainly is for another day.
But yeah, he's obviously extracting the progenoid gland, which he's not like your standard apothecary who has a lovely, neat piece of war gear strapped to his power armor, the Narthekium, which he can just, neatly and cleanly extract this gene seed to be stored and kept in stasis for the next recruit. This guy's just ripping it out. Doesn't really care much for. He's not really standing on much in the way of ceremony, is he?
He's definitely not standing on ceremony. He is crouching over that like a little beast, just tearing it out.
Let's talk a little bit about the paint job of the new Fabius.
What do you think about it?
Very clean and crisp. Obviously, the thing that stands out to me is the skill in the vials of chemical, painted very nicely. That's what stands out to me at first glance. But of course, then there's the other aspects to it. The flesh robe doesn't seem to have as many faces on the front of it as the old Fabius did.
I agree, and maybe that's where he's lost out.
I think so. I think that's probably a downside. I think that it's painted really nice. The armor looks a little bit more Emperor's Children than the original paint job does. That probably is done deliberately, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at the back of the miniature, there isn't actually any of those faces in the cloak, which is a bit of a shame. He does still have the old shrunken head strapped to the belt. It does look lovely. I think the downside is there's no faces on the cloak, whether that's through making it a little bit less horrific.
I would hope not, because I think the lack of faces on his robe is one thing, and maybe that does take some of the horror away from what he's been up to. But I think that's instantly placed back by the ghoulish-looking experiment guy next to him, tearing the throat out. So I don't think that it's that. Maybe that was just a thing where they just thought, that's a bit, we've done it before and we don't want to do an exact.
Maybe it detracts too much from the other cool elements of this miniature, perhaps.
Absolutely, yeah. Because he's got that like nice little toolkit on his side, hasn't he? Various surgical implements and stuff, which on the original, quite close to one of the faces. Maybe that was their choice there. I think the paint job is superb. The needler, all of your kind of tubes and vials, everywhere that's meant to be some sort of glassware of some description, has all been painted to a really lovely high standard. Looks really crisp, really sort of bright and zingy against his drab skin robes without the faces, and his pallid skin and his beautiful, silky, long white hair.
To me, it still encapsulates so much of the old Jez Goodwin version of that fabulous.
It really does,
and it's so instantly recognisable, which is nice. I don't like to see too much of a divergence from the old ways.
Do you remember a time where you saw so much divergence from the old ways that you were sickened and disgusted, even if it just had a new hat on it, but that was enough to disgust you?
Well, I mean,
be as mean as you like.
I could talk for ages.
You looked so pained. Something that looked better in its original state than its modernized version. Can you think of anyone who started beautifully in metal, be it lead or the white metal wave, and who has got worse?
Well, for me, my heart always sits with Gazgol Thraka.
Does it? Yeah.
The original Gazgol Thraka, who was small.
He was small for his. He was big for his time, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had Makari, the little Gretchen standard bearer, with his lucky ward save of 2+, and then he was re-released as a big old hulking brute about 10 years ago, maybe longer, and now he's just had a new release, which is bigger and badder. But of course, it's just bigger and badder. But that holds a very dear place in my heart.
Do you know? So speaking about old Gazcog there, I think the new version is so far removed from the original. It's almost like a different species of miniature, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only thing tying them together is the name.
I mean, scale-wise is one thing, but even the fact that the original had his combi blaster built into his arm and a power sword raised up.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I mean, the new version is just all claws and jaws, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just all claws and jaws, and that's kind of what the new orcs are like. Are they orcs anymore? Are they Oryx? No, is that Warhammer Age of Sigmar? I can't remember. They'll always be space orcs to me.
They'll always be space orcs to me also. Okay.
Very close place. A very, very dear spot in this withered old heart of mine.
I have a great love of Skaven. It's festered for many years, and there have been some drastic improvements. I've watched them go from spindly, hunched over, twisted little things of lead, which I first saw them, which I really, really loved, and that's kind of where they caught my eye. And they went through a stage where they became quite bloated and almost more simian and ape-like, rather than a rat man.
Yeah.
Skaven are. For those of you who have not investigated them, I suggest you immediately start Googling them up and bow down to the horned rat. In recent times, the Skaven they've suffered a little bit in as much as they've started to grow quite large, often plated in metal. They sort of resemble, more often than not, a sort of rat-like space marine or servitor, which I think is very sad. So the individual model that I'll talk about, the latest version of Deathmaster Snitch, is incredible. It's a beautiful model, and it is a good kind of port over from the original. But I don't really think the original one can be undone for me. Like, it was the first Skaven character that I saw that was so lethal in game. Obviously, the Deathmaster, the very highest rank of high assassins, he's made to just butcher heroes, just absolutely erase them from the battlefield. And that original metal figure, for me, that had all of that look about it as well. He's throwing stars, his poison knives, his long cloak. He looked kind of big for a Skaven.
And very Clan Eshin, summed up Clan Eshin so well.
Excellently so, yeah. There was also, I think that there was kind of some effort put in place. The fact that he had a blade in each hand and one in his tail, his kind of shape of blades echoed the sort of triangular shape of the Skaven race symbol, almost, didn't it? There was something about that. He was so dark, his blades were so bright, kind of set up in that triangular shape, which does carry through to the modern version.
Yes,
and
it does.
I really like the modern version, but it's just it for me. It isn't a huge improvement like Fabius. There, it's kind of a sidestep. It's fine.
Yeah, with Fabius, you've got, as you said earlier, just a pure upgrade. It's just a strictly better version of that model.
It is really.
There's a part of me that like rails against it a little bit, thinking like, wow, they've made something from the 90s better. And that might sound ridiculous to a lot of our listeners, but hopefully you'll be able to empathize a little bit, because of course these are the figures and the miniatures that we grew up loving, learning to play with, buying, painting. So they do have quite a sentimentality to them.
And our examples, it's kind of, it might be worth your time checking them out to sort of see if our rambling description of them holds water. Whereas I think we can agree for us ourselves that this Fabius Bile, he just looks like he's taken a shot of real good steroids, doesn't he? He just looks sharper, more evil, taller, a better scale. And I think for the most part it's just because of the equipment now available.
I mean, I don't know the intricacies and the whys and wherefores when it comes to the newer way of sculpting, whether there are multiple people that do it. But either way, it's a credit to the design team.
It's really interesting the way it's been released with alongside a slew of new models, which I don't think we could safely say the same for. I don't think we need to go into that right now either, but cover your eyes, exactly, because there are some shockers, aren't there?
Yes.
We're not going to mention any names, though, are we? I know what you're thinking.
My tongue is truly held right now. Yes, to keep things PG, let's move on because
let's move on.
We have come to the end of our segment on Fabius, and we're going to move on to our next piece, which is Magic the Gathering.
MTG. If you've listened to any of the others, you might be getting used to this by now. I mean, we're not really, are we? We're puzzling out as we go along.
What are we doing again?
Exactly. Oh, here's a magic card. So we're getting some of our listeners to send in a request for one of the many thousands upon thousands of Magic the Gathering cards. We're going to bring it up on screen here. We're going to have a little chat about it. We're going to talk about its art, the way it fits into whatever color it is. We're going to talk about its mechanical usefulness, and anything else that this small piece of beautiful card conjures up.
Yeah. So this one was kindly requested by Hector 52.
Hector 52. Very good.
But Hector 52 has chosen this particular card, and it is the Pouncing Shore Shark. Yes, this is done by Dan Scott.
There's quite a lot to talk about with this fellow, actually, isn't it? So this was a good choice for a card.
Yeah. Yes. At first glance, there's something a little bit silly about it, I think.
There's a lot silly about it, yeah.
I mean, the name itself is a pouncing shore shark, so that in itself is a bit of a juxtaposition, right? But I think a little bit of sort of insight into the set, Ikoria, the Lair of Behemoths, which is what this card is from, which is one of the more recent sets.
Yeah.
Might shine a little bit of light on as to why this thing is pouncing
the way it does.
Yes.
Very good.
So the idea of Ikoria is that it's a beautiful world of a myriad creatures, and the planet's surface is sort of encrusted with pockets of gemstones, very powerful magic gemstones that have a sort of an effect on the wildlife, the fauna of the world, and it creates these odd mutations that appear in their creatures, which gives you. I don't know if you ever. I remember as a very young child at school, I had a conversation once with a friend, and this has just come to me. It's, if you could have any animal's attributes, what would you have? Any combination. And we'd go through these wonderful, weird ideas in our head, like if we could have the speed of a cheetah and the wings of an eagle, the tusks of a mammoth and all this sort of thing. And we just had, we conjured these amazing images of, how cool it'd be if we had all these abilities that animals have in real life.
Did we not have this conversation probably only weeks ago? Surely this does not sound like something that was contained merely to childhood.
But I think the designers behind this particular card and the Ikoria Lair of Behemoths set as a whole probably were playing that same game that I was playing with my childhood friend, thinking how cool would it be if we had a camel with wings or a shark with cat's legs, which it looks to me like this thing it has. It's obviously been mutated by the crystals underwater or on the shore. And that's what this image is conveying, the idea that these animals have not been sort of bodged together like experiments, but have actually evolved like this and have mutated like this.
The artist has really captured that as well, isn't it? There's quite a seamless transition, isn't there, between the skin of the cat there, and the kind of the smooth dappled skin of the shark. So there's no stitched together. This is no Frankenstein style beast that's been patched up. As you say, this has been mutated in this way. It's got like cool looking motion because it looks kind of similar to, if we could imagine a shark leaping from the water, but it also is really reminiscent, the shape of the curve of the body there, of a cat pouncing, isn't it? Is that kind of leap forward? And I think for me, a lot of that is actually coming through in the shape of its sort of where its spine would be, that curve of its back, as well as the placement of the claws and such.
Yeah, and again, I'll issue the same apology to our audio-only listeners. If you're listening to us on audio only, you won't be able to see what we're looking at. But please have a look, Google it up, pouncing shore shark, Ikoria, and you'll see what we're talking about here. Because this is quite a good piece of artwork. It looks almost real in a sense that the lighting and everything looks good. It clearly looks like a shark. So it looks like it could conceivably exist in an alien world on another plane of existence. The surrounding, like the background and the environment itself, though, I mean, it looks somewhat peaceful.
It does, which I think it adds to the pouncing thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like the place around looks like a peaceful beach.
It does.
Some nice looking sandstone rocks, nice blue sky in the background.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you've got the roaring, deafening scream. I'm not sure how that would sound for a shark.
I honestly wouldn't know either. Do they roar? Do they scream? Do they make any noise at all?
It would be a super... Well, I like the idea that he's silently roaring.
Yeah.
But you've got all that kind of spray of water there. He's lunged up out of the shallows.
Quite a lot of movement in it, isn't there?
A lot of movement. You've got problems if this guy pops out at you.
Yeah, if you were taking your daily stroll down the beach and that thing jumped out at you, it's the end of your days there, isn't it? Let's be real. I mean,
probably. So shall we have a quick look at him sort of mechanically, how he acts in the game, just to see if we really would be at the end of our days?
Yeah, let's throw him up on the screen. This is the full card then. Let's break this down a little bit. He's a blue creature. He's got a mana cost of 5. 4 generic and 1 blue, so he's somewhat expensive on the curve. But then a lot of blue creatures, a lot of blue creatures tend to be. It's a creature, obviously, and it's a shark beast.
I like it.
That reflects the fact that it's half cat, half shark, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has it's an uncommon as per the silvered icons. We've also got the mechanics in the game. It's got a couple of keywords here, both mutate and flash. So we'll tackle flash first, I think, with this, because flash, the idea of a card having the ability of flashing into the battlefield is that it can be played at any time that you can play an instant card, so you can interrupt your opponent's turn to play this, and that represents, I think, the pounce. It represents the
sudden,
jumping out at you. So that's quite a nice little flavoured mechanic to add on to this card. The idea that it can be played at any time.
Yeah, it really works, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if you're being attacked by a bunch of creatures, you've got a pouncing shore shark in your hand. Let it pounce on the enemies that are attacking you, and it's quite beefy stats wise. It's a 4/3, so it can be quite good to flash in as a as a blocker. The cost is holding it back from being, I think, particularly good in game. And the idea of comboing, mixing it with other cards in your deck, for example, comes in quite strongly with the mutate ability. So if you mutate this card, it's quite a complex mechanic, actually, at first glance. It's somewhat intuitive once you begin to play with mutate. But there's a lot of words that describe the term.
Yes.
So you can play it. It's a little bit cheaper if you do. It's 1 mana cheaper. It's a 3 generic and 1 blue. So it's only 4 mana to play if you cast it as a mutate card. But you can play this card on top of or underneath another creature that's on the battlefield,
which makes it a very flexible thing, doesn't it?
It's quite a flexible ability. Yeah.
You can choose to have it top or on the underside there, and you have a very different creature by doing that.
Yeah,
I think combining with like the flash there, I know it is kind of high mana cost, but as you say, kind of blue creatures do tend to have like a weird slight premium on their mana cost. They come across a tiny bit inefficient sometimes.
Yeah, so I think this is it's a cool card. It makes a lot of sense flavor wise. It doesn't have any flavor text because there's so much in the way of rules and mechanics going on with this card. There's no room on the card for any flavor text. But I think that's baked into its abilities, isn't it?
I agree.
It's a really fun, actually quite a fun mechanic. And I think not only does it capture the fast pouncing nature of this creature with its flash mechanic, but it also creates that little bit of fun from it as well. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of Street Sharks. I don't know if you remember those toys. I can't remember if there was a cartoon with them on the television as well, but I certainly had some of the action figures. I think there was, and it was around the same sort of time as the Biker Mice from Mars.
That's right.
Reminds me of Street Sharks.
This is very good knowledge, and wouldn't it be interesting if Dan Scott there, he had that same thought as well? Imagine if he were given this, was tasked with this, and he just thought to himself, he thought, Street Sharks.
This is the perfect thing to do. Yeah. I mean, he's not in a pair of ripped jeans like the Street Sharks were. He doesn't have a chain wallet in his back pocket like the Street Sharks did from the cartoon, but it's as good as...
We don't know that either. That might be just out of shot.
It could well be. The ripped jeans and chain wallet could be underneath the water.
It could be underneath.
I don't think I can unsee that now, to be fair.
No. In fact, it might be worth maybe getting a pen out later on and hashing up a rough representation.
Yeah. I mean, come on, guys. If any of you are budding artists or love to alter your cards, give this guy a pair of ripped jeans. Send it to us. Let us have a look.
That's right. Yeah. We'll proudly display it.
Right. So I mean, that's the Pouncing Shore Shark. Thank you, Hector52, for your suggestion. It was a great one. Lovely choice.
Good, and thank you.
I've enjoyed having a look at that. I might even try and play it.
You're joking, of course.
Hey, I'm not. I'm going to honour Hector52's choice with a game of Magic, and I'm going to use a full play set of Pouncing Shore Sharks.
Brilliant. Imagine if they carry you to victory. I think Hector52 needs a good sturdy pat on the back. Let's hope so.
But that brings us to the end of the Magic the Gathering segment.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Burlokk. I always love to analyse a picture of a some animal crossed with another one, lunging out of the sea on a peaceful, sandy-looking beach. Yeah, I can now rest easy this evening, a fairly happy man.
So that brings us on to, sadly, the closing of the preamble.
Well, this one has been quite an amble as well, hasn't it?
I think it has, yeah. It has been quite an amble.
The biker mice from Mars have been mentioned at the least twice. So I think we've got the full quota in for like a decent hobby discussion.
Do you have anything for our lovely listeners and viewers to digest with regard to a quote, Grumsworth? Do you have a book quote or something to leave our audience with as we make way to depart?
Now, I'd like to send everyone off with with maybe a very long tale. Maybe the send-off would be longer than the podcast itself.
Well, that would be interesting.
Tiring, I think, is the word you're looking for.
Perhaps
tiring.
I mean, looking at our chronometer here, we have the best part of about a minute and a half.
You're joking.
Yes.
I can't possibly. I mean, I'm looking through here. I've got some notes here, folks. Prepared notes. They were prepared 2009, it appears. So for those of you who may have liked to have played Necromunda back in the day or presently, I really encourage you to get really narrative with your campaigns. So what we used to do, our little group, in between games, we would do a quick write-up, sometimes in character, sometimes not, of our various battles here. And within this small tome here, I have some of that knowledge. So I'll read you the first little chunk of text that I've come to on this page. It's depicting a scrap between a gang of scavvies, the people under the pipe, and a gang of vain SARS, the red team, that they were sadly known as. The creeper, riddled with silent fire, fails to raise the alarm. Black Rag and Tiny play a strange game of piss tag round a vent unit until Black Rag collapses from slaught addiction. Against all odds, the Jefferson twin. Oh dear. Oh, this turns into a horrible story. A terrible tale where the scavvies lose miserably. Their little vent situation there is destroyed. Their leader there, Uncle Grumsworth, sharing my name there, orders that the survivors, not the dead, the survivors, are sent to the pot to be cannibalized. So, well, if we've learned anything from this small journal, it is the case that if you are a scavvy, gribbling around in the underhive, and you don't defend your stills, but you survive, there's now but the pot for you. Exactly. You're going to be eaten.
Raise the alarm, damn it.
Raise the alarm.
Defend your water still.
I think it was the silent fire that did for them.
Yeah.
You know these Van SARS and their high-tech weaponry.
Yeah, they'll get us all in the night.
They'll get us all in the night.
And on that note, get in touch with us if you want to read all our show notes and all the business around our faces here. You can see where you can reach us. This has been the Preamble.
Protect your vents.
Protect your vents. Keep your water stills in good order and hope the Van SARS don't come. What can we say? Bye-bye.
That's us out. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Preamble. Be sure to check us out on Twitch, Spotify, or find us on Player FM. And if you want to get in touch with us, send an email to thepreamble@gmail.com. Your hosts were Grumsworth and Burlokk, brought to you by roguesgaming.com. Special thanks to our contributors, our showcase artist, and of course, to all of you. See you next time.